From the experience of the NDC when we were in government under, shall I say, President John Dramani Mahama I, we had a fund for the sector. I think that to sustain it, domains will have to assess the fund and make it a revolving one. So whatever you want to champion with the fund that you assess, you should be able to have a turnover that is returned for other people to come and also benefit from it. From the experience of the NDC when we were in government under, shall I say, President John Dramani Mahama I, we had a fund for the sector. I think that to sustain it, domains will have to assess the fund and make it a revolving one. So whatever you want to champion with the fund that you assess, you should be able to have a turnover that is returned for other people to come and also benefit from.
All right, so that was Minister Designate for the Tourism, Culture and Creative Arts speaking at the vetting committee. There's other things she said, especially on restructuring the industry. Take a look at that when we come back. My guests are seated.
Indicated that there's going to be a revamping of the sector. And the beginning of it will be to see how we align properly all the laws that revolve or work for the sector. Some are overlapping now, and so we have to look at that. But the policy will be generally to contribute to the GDP to the best of our ability. We have tabled the Black Star experience as one of the policy areas to see how we can make tourism, as I said before, take center stage in the ministry.
All right, so that was Honorable Dzifa Gomashie. She is the one that will be heading the creative arts industry, the tourism and culture as well. And she went for the vetting now. She's been approved. And so whatever it is, we have a ministry and we have a minister. And in the studio this morning, I've got the man, Kwame Danzi. He was the Showbiz A to Z on Joy 99.7 FM. Now, the man, the president, the last killer of FOCAP is here with me. Kujufreku Dankwa is here this morning as well. We'll be joined on Zoom via the chairman of the Ghana Artists Guild. He's also an actor. Ken Fiato will be joining us on Zoom. Ken, if you can hear me, I understand he's been there since June, July. Okay, Ken, when you're ready, kindly, okay, once Ken is on, we'll definitely pick him. But, gentlemen, good morning.
Good morning.
Good
morning.
All good?
Yeah, all good. How you doing?
Are we happy?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
we should be happy.
You should be happy.
Yeah.
For what?
For life.
Oh, no. For a
But you
minister.
said, are we happy?
No, it's not the life I'm talking about. I'm talking about a minister.
Oh, okay. Happy about the minister?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're happy we have a
female.
No matter which gender she is. We're happy we have a minister.
Okay. Will you?
Yeah, we're happy.
We're happy.
We're happy.
Anyway,
I know where you are going. But if you don't go there first, we will not follow you. We will not go there before you.
Interestingly, there has been conversations about her vetting. Some believe she could have done better, way better than she did. Others say, well, she didn't want to promise so much and do little. Some also think that maybe in retrospect, even herself would probably say she could have done better for herself. Kwame, you have followed this minister, Kojo, you have also done the same. Was she the one that we wanted in that place after the vetting?
After the vetting?
Yes, after what we saw at the vetting.
It's a very difficult question. I think the industry had a number of people in mind. There were names like Sadiq, Rexoma, Dzifa herself. There was a name like Kojo Bonsu, former KMA boss. And so people were looking forward to having or seeing some of these people get the position. But all of them can't be ministers of tourism, culture, and creative art. Just one person will be chosen. I know there are various dynamics to this. You know, when Mahama is appointing the ministers, a larger number of the people must come from Parliament.
Yeah.
And so one of the indicators that we may say maybe was a factor for her selection would be the fact that she is MP for Ketu South. That is one. And Mahama also promised that he would appoint about 30% women.
By law, actually.
Okay, so 30% women. So likely, you might see a woman there. So that's another factor. And the fact that she had been in that position before as a deputy minister. You know how our deputy ministers always say, oh, because we are deputies, we don't have the full power.
Make me the substantive.
So if I become the proper main minister, I'll deliver. And so I think because this government doesn't have much time, and they thought that we need to hit the ground running, we needed somebody who has some experience in the industry. Dzifa Gomashie, culture, arts, tourism might not be her forte, but because she had been in that position before, I thought that she would have the relevant previous knowledge, if you like, when she goes there. So choice, nothing wrong with that. But after the vetting, I wasn't impressed with some of the answers that she gave. The only thing I might say I was impressed about was her introduction. That was beautiful. But it appeared she wasn't on top of issues. I don't know if after they left office in 2017, she tuned off from the industry and focused on her constituency. Maybe that was what happened, because most of the questions that were asked, I thought as somebody who has been there before, who has the knowledge, experience in the industry, some of these answers would come in handy for her. But she struggled. For example, the Creative Art Fund.
Kwame, we'll get to that. Okay. We'll get to some of the answers she gave and then review it properly. I'll come to you.
Okay.
Ken is supposed to go somewhere, so let me just take a quick reaction to it.
He's going to church.
Yeah, he has a church function to attend. Ken, good morning. How are you? Hello, Ken. Can you hear me? Ken, if you can hear me, on mute. No, I think he's not even able to hear me in the first place because he's not moving. He's not moving at all. Yes. Were you impressed with what you saw at the vetting?
I was impressed with the kind of, first off, I think the questions that were coming from the panel. The last time that we held a vetting of that nature, I think that some of the questions that came up were weak. I was amazed that this time around, there were certain key questions that were really coming up from this particular one. I think that, again, I would want to clap for the industry because of the noise and the good noise that we've made so far to the hearing of the policymakers and the politicians to truly understand what we really doing and all that. So therefore, I was happy. I was again happy that some of the MPs were now, being jealously guarding their area where they were asking certain questions within their space, like the mole, the MPs coming from that section and all those things and all. So I was really happy. And then how questions were moved beyond just a creative and then asking how we can employ. Because we keep saying that the industry really can employ people and employ the youth and all that. The
people will tell you how many people are on set at the time and all that.
I was also impressed about the hotel questions that were asked, the issues of recreational areas and all that. So clearly, I was impressed with the general overview of the whole, questions and how responses were coming. Like Kwame said, I was also impressed with the initial, things that were coming from our minister in terms of, coming out with issues concerning herself and what she's been able to do for Ketu and all those things. And I think that she has really, positioned well, grown into the space and all that. So fairly, I was okay with the questions and how responses were coming. It's just that where you said we should go enter, pretty soon, is where we need to really position well and find out if indeed, I mean, these questions that were asked by minority leader, were they the answers that we truly got from our minister, if indeed these answers will really solve the problems that we are looking for. And like Kwame said, we have no doubt that our minister will produce good results. Only if, and I repeat, only if she gets herself to have an open door policy where she will allow herself to be given a good right and left front avant-gardes to really position her well. Whatever it is, these avant-gardes, when they do the good job, it is you, the leader, who takes the praise. So for me, I'm hoping that she will get that pillars, okay, surrounding her, positive ones, not political, not because I am I'm bringing my friends and cronies, but to look into the system well and look and position well. Position well in the front of the media, position well communication-wise from the sector, position well with people who understands your manifesto to able to execute it very well. Let you understand. Because one of the questions that was critical for me was the fact that Afenyo Makin was asking her, you are an MP, you're going to travel. What it meant to me when I was watching was that you're going to be too busy. How are you able, or are you going to really function very well within that sector that is too busy? You understand?
Yeah.
Very, very busy place. And you're going to have too much time to do constituency, too much time to travel, too much time to come to parliament, committee, and things and all that. How are you going to function?
And let's even pray that we are not one of the ministries that will be affected in terms of
with deputies. Exactly.
Not all the ministry will get the
exactly
to the president. I'll come back to you.
All right.
But let me go to Ken and see if we can reconnect with him. Ken, can you hear me? Ken, unmute. Are you okay? You are using Zoom for the first time. I understand. Just unmute. Look into the interface. You find unmute somewhere. Use it.
I think I found it.
You better do.
It's good to surround yourself with good people and good minds who can always show you how to navigate.
Absolutely. I take full credit for that.
So I think that credit goes to Kojo and Kwame.
Oh, is it? This is unfair.
Yeah, you can take the minutest part of it.
Anyway, I'm grateful you were able to join us this morning, my brother. We've been trying to see how to evaluate minister that went for the vetting. In the first place, how did you see her performance? Were you impressed, or you think there's more room for improvement, as we always say?
I think that we need to say thank you to His Excellency for giving us one of our own. We always cry for that. And I think Honorable Dzifa Gomashie is a good choice. I say this because I've had several years of knowledge of her. I have had encounters with her. I've worked with her in different areas. I have had the opportunity to even learn from her, right from the University School of Performing Arts, where she exerted herself as one that has the creative industry at heart. I also know her from the Culture Forum angle, and I can tell you for a fact that I think she is a good choice. I'm not saying this to patronize her, but I'm saying it because I know her. For the vetting, I was physically present because we have decided as creatives to be citizens, not spectators.
Absolutely.
We have decided that we want to be part of ensuring that the right things are done. So I was there. The first thing that caught my attention was her outfit. I want to believe that she was resplendent in her outfit and her outlook. I loved her composure, and I think that she exerted herself very well under the circumstances. So I am looking forward to good days ahead. A sweep across the room also gave me some comfort because I saw a plethora of knowledgeable, creative minds who were there. This shows that she must have built a certain relationship with people in the industry for them to want to show up the way they did. So I want to believe it's a good climate that we can key into to be able to get where we want the creatives to get to.
In terms of our responses on some of the questions that were asked, which one specifically would you choose and address that if given the opportunity, she could have answered it a bit better, or she did better in this particular area, and you want to actually acknowledge her with regards to that?
I think that the questions were apt, and I want to believe that she dealt with them as much as she could under the circumstance. Because for me, what caught my attention, which has been my area of interest, is the Creative Arts Fund. For me, I always struggle to even say creative arts, but that's what we have, and so we have to work with it. That is what caught my attention and interest in terms of how she was going to fund that fund, if I am allowed to say that, how she was going to get monies into that fund. I'm sure that the law clearly stipulates, when I say the law, I'm referring to the Creative Arts Law Act 1048. It clearly stipulates how monies can get into that fund. I'm sure she was being careful about her answers, but of course, once she hits the ground running, it will become something that is easy for us to do. Now, we have heard of certain monies go into certain quarters, and that those monies being labeled as Creative Arts Fund. It's proper for us to have the fund go into what fund it has to go into, and then we can all see how it is administered. I love the question that came from Honorable Penyo Marking regarding people not wanting to pay back monies that are given to them and all that. I love the response that Honorable Dzifa gave, that there are models that we can learn from, models that we can replicate, if not duplicate, like the banking system and all that. How do they manage to get people to pay back the loans and all that they get? And I want to believe that there are interesting things that can come out of our sector minister. And like Kojo would always say, and Kwame also says it, that we would have to come on board with everything that we have. A certain regime said that creatives cannot take care of themselves, and so certain policies are in place so that certain creative minds shouldn't be in certain positions. It makes me puke anytime I remember such statements coming out, especially when it comes from people who are in positions of power and are supposed to be creative-minded. The late Col Blankson, if he were alive, would have been an asset for us in this day and age. This is somebody who has done well in the marketing world and administrative world. We have a plethora of them. We have Wakefield Akwoku, who has exerted himself well in administrative work. I can go on and on. The fact that I am a creative mind does not mean that I do not have any other qualification or ability. So I am excited about Kojo's point that there are creatives who have the right acumen and knowledge and willingness to do what has to be done to help the creative. So just like I said to myself sitting there, some of the questions that were asked, Honorable Dzifa, all she may have had to do, if the laws allowed it, was to look back, and there would be a certain Jane Awendo to answer, or a certain Grace Omabu to answer, and we were all there to support her. So we were excited about the appointment.
Very well. I understand that you have to take leave of us for other engagements. So before you go, there's issues of associations and how I'm careful with my words, because if I'm not charitable, I might say certain things that would offend people like you who are heading some of these groups.
Feel free. Truth is truth. Feel free.
Most of these groups have become totally useless. And I'm talking about the Actors Guild. I'm talking about the other associations we've been finding, music, Gamro, and all of those people. Now, moving forward, you think that this is the time for us to rally ourselves together and build these associations?
I think we've always had opportunity to do this that you're referring to. If only we would have allowed sanity to prevail in the sector in terms of not being individualistic in our approach to things, where people think all knowledge resides only in their heads. we need each other in order to do well. So for some of us, it's a shame that we have to belong to groups like Ghana Actors Guild, where we have to be in court for over 6 years over a very simple issue. And sometimes if we're not careful, just like you were being careful in asking the question because you didn't want to offend my feelings, I also have to be careful because I may not want to offend the law. But sometimes when justice takes forever to be exacted, it allows such situations to recur. Ghana Actors Guild shouldn't be where it is because structures were put in place. I doff my hat off for Samuel Fission, a man who is humble, a man who wants to see the Actors Guild do well, put all the structures in place, certain things that we even put in place, if I'm allowed to give an example, where we were building a parallel leadership system, where we have a political leadership and an administrative leadership, where the office of the guild is run by somebody who has a business administration mind to run the guild to where it has to be, is put in place. And then you go to court a day before election, and we are in court for 6 years, and that is why we can say that the Actors Guild is dead.
Okay.
It's sad that people in the sector would allow ourselves to become agents of destruction. But I believe in Honorable Dzifa Gomashie. I can tell you that for a fact, that in quotes, she's a no-nonsense woman.
Okay.
And it is time for us to put things in the right places. Anyone who is not ready to adhere to it, we should be able to deal with same.
Okay.
Now, let me add this point. Some time back, we heard about creative arts courts, where our issues will be dealt with in an expedited manner so that we will not be left in a situation of same that we have currently. I think it is high time we looked at that, where we have a system in court where any issues regarding entertainment or the creative arts industry can be taken for an expedited redress so that societies like Ghana Actors Guild will not be in the dark.
Very well. Many thanks to you for joining us this morning, Ken. I really appreciate your time.
I am excited for the opportunity, and I can tell you for a fact that Kwame Dazi and Kojo would voice my sentiments because we talk a lot. And so if they say something that is good for the refuse dump, it might be my thinking as well. But I am sure that these guys have great minds.
Let's pretend I wasn't part of this conversation. Ken Piate is the chairman for Ghana Actors Guild, and he's also an actor as well, joining us this morning here on the show. Well, let's hope that the last issue he mentioned, with the issue with the courts, I'm hoping that the Attorney General will find a way and deal with some of these things because they want to now go back
to
the
Creative Arts Court.
So
I think that
maybe they can specially.
That issue, there was a resolution that they would not pursue the court again, and that they will use the courts that we have.
Normal courts that we have. But he's looking at a way we can expedite some of these things, and so maybe if we set aside one, which is specifically for that.
Okay, so we should go back to that.
Exactly.
That idea.
Yes.
Maybe we should.
Because we're trying to go back to the tribunals. I mean, the Attorney General has spoken about that, even though he came with some questions about why is it necessary for us to go to that, you know.
I agree, but beyond that, I think the association, sometimes they should learn how to solve issues internally. There are petty issues that they drag for ages. I don't know why. Maybe it's because creatives they have ego issues naturally. So sometimes issues that can be solved internally, you know, within the association, you see them take to court for 10 years. Why should they do that?
It doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense. So in as much as we are also thinking about maybe getting courts for the creative industry, I think sometimes learn how to solve issues at home.
So we'll take a look at some of the answers that she gave, and then maybe since we all looking at the restructuring, a question was posed about how she intends to look at the entire sector. So this is what she said: a restructuring of the ministry will be important going forward because some responsibilities overlap. But these are things that once the restructures are properly set in place, we can address it. Did they give an answer to the question? Okay,
so this answer wasn't really an answer to the question. It was, should I say, a suggestion, if you like, because she was asked to mention the agencies under the ministry. So while mentioning the agencies, she mentioned that some of these agencies need to be under others. That I agree, because, for example, we have National Commission on Culture. which is an agency on its own, and we have Folklore Board. Folklore Board, I think, should be under Commission on Culture, but it is an agency on its own. We have National Film Authority, an agency on its own, which is even fighting for a fund for itself.
Yeah.
We have the Creative Art Agency, which is supposed to regulate all the art agencies in art sects in this industry. And so you have film, you have painting, you have architecture, you have software development, you have all these art fields under the Creative Art Agency. Meanwhile, there is a Film Authority, which is also fighting for a fund, and the agency. So you see the overlap she's talking about. So maybe we need to truly see how best we can put them together together. So I agree with her on that tangent.
Okay.
But it wasn't an answer to a particular question. So yes, that's a very good idea. But the one question that was asked Dzifa that I think she didn't answer, maybe because she's not read the manifesto, is a question that Patrick Yabwama raised about cruise tourism.
Yeah.
And then he mentioned, he was amazed to have read in the tourism report that cruise tourism brings much revenue into the country. So he asked the question about which other types of tourism she thinks can be introduced. And she was talking about dolphins.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, if she had read their manifesto, it is clearly stated in there. They have medical tourism. They have religious tourism. They have cultural tourism. They have sports tourism in there. So clearly,
even funeral tourism.
The funeral one isn't in the NDC manifesto, but it was an idea that was proposed by Awar Mohammed and Mark during their time. Yeah, so
we've heard that before.
Yeah, but they can even add it to this.
I mean, it doesn't change anything.
Because the idea of funeral tourism isn't bad in itself. I think how they explained it.
Look at what happens when we lose people in Kumasi in the acting space. It's a whole tourism on its own.
So
the confused funeral. What's a tourism?
I agree, but I think that communication that former Minister of Tourism Awar gave then, they didn't sit well with people when he mentioned Sobolo and other things. I think it wasn't well explained to me. But funeral tourism really happens. It's there.
I think that's what we did in Kumasi. It was.
But I think that Dzifa maybe wasn't abreast of their manifesto promises.
She didn't know.
Maybe she didn't read it well. Or maybe sometimes, when you are before the Sahindrin and you are being asked questions, it becomes quite difficult. You're not really fin your money be and all that. So maybe we should pardon her on that tangent. But if we're analyzing her answers to the questions, the tourism, that cruise tourism bit, I think she didn't do well with the answer there. And if I should move on to another point, the Creative Arts Fund. There is an impression being created that the fund is going to be a money lending project. So that if KMJ needs money, no, Abba, please give me 10,000 Ghana cedis. This person comes. But it is clearly stated in the Act 1048 what the money should be used for. And so as somebody who was instrumental in the drafting of this act, I was surprised she couldn't even go to that tangent. So if I should read a bit of the act, so the Article 23, okay.
Yeah, you have the object of the fund.
Yes.
You have the sources of monies for the fund.
Good.
And then you have management of the fund.
So the object, creative art industry productions and exhibitions, okay? Research and development activities, professional development and skills training. These are the things the fund should be used for. Documentation and preservation activities, publications, development of innovation, initiation of sustainable projects in other related areas, policy planning, monitoring and evaluation, and any other matters determined by the board in furtherance of the objects of the agency. And even the sources, when she was asking
where to get the monies from. And these are things that people felt that she's supposed to know.
I was surprised that it had to take Afenyo marking to mention it levy to her. Because the basic thing, you take the tourism fund, they have 1% levy for that. And even in the Act 2, we have 1% levy that will be paid by enterprises within the creative arts industry. 1% levy. So that was a basic. But she started by talking about, donors, and even though that is also part, I was like, oh,
the basic
so what
was
happened
the
to
amount that
base?
is paid.
Yes, grants and all that. And what even got me more surprised was when she said, oh, okay, when she was asked if they don't pay, what she would do. Or even the banks suffer the same thing. I was expecting that she would say, we would make sure they pay. Because then if...
That's some sort of surety.
Yeah, but maybe she was trying to be realistic. But the fact is that if you say that, it means that... Because if you can't take back the money that you give to the people, then what are we doing? Mind you, this agency, Creative Art Agency, is now being formed. Even as we speak now, they don't have an office.
Yeah.
And so if we are building an agency of this nature and we are going to dole out monies to people and they won't pay and we can't do anything to them, then we are causing financial loss to the state, if you ask me. So yes, I wasn't so much enthused about that particular answer because I know that she was part of the drafting of that particular act when she was deputy minister then. And so I was expecting her to explain, the sources.
Have a full grasp of what
exactly.
Really
but it appeared she was speaking like somebody that they didn't really know the industry.
Give me the space, let me go and look.
For example, she was asked about the role of the Creative Art Agency, and she was talking about what she would do when she assumes office.
Instead of what the agency does.
Yeah, but the role is to regulate all the subfields of the art industry. Regulation, put them together, coordinate them. She didn't say that. And she was part of the drafting of that act.
Kwame, we'll get to others. Let me take the thought of Kojo as well. Kojo, what was the fallout for you?
Well, I think one of the places that I had too much interest in was a restructuring. I think that having 13 agencies is a waste. Having too many, we just took it out of the main agencies that we had. For instance, I don't see why we want to concentrate too much on National Theatre as a whole agency to really deal with when indeed you have National Commission on Culture where it was coming from. That is the offshoot of, the agency that we have now. Why won't you just bring it back for us to see the value that we place on National Commission on Culture? It is one of the pivotal things, agencies that deals with culture in the system. So even if you have a ministry that is even engaging culture and you have National Commission on Culture, you can tell the value that we place on culture to the extent that then your funeral, tourism that you're talking about and every single thing would then dovetail into that space. Even tourism should understand the fact that when they are even having things like Beyond the Return, having, things of fashion shows and all that, we need to visit the National Commission on Culture to really understand what we are projecting. Because what you are projecting depicts your country. And the pivot, I keep saying, is the culture. And that's the more reason why, again, I was also surprised that it was not even mentioned at the vetting by Dzifa herself, that their manifesto is coming up with something they call the CAT approach. The CAT approach meaning the culture, arts, and then the tourism. So the value that you want to place on culture, should be projected. So that's the more reason I'm saying that National Theatre should go back into National Commission on Culture. Things like Du Bois Center should be off as an agency. Du Bois Center should be seen as one historic area where we can go and have our lectures and seminars and read the books of Du Bois and everything historic. But if you make it a full agency, what are you trying to tell us? What is it generating for the system? Because every agency needs to have a way of generating income, maximum income to run their own space. Just like CA is going to do, just like GTA is doing. And in any case, all the 13, GTA is the most effective, even telling us what they determine what they want to do with their money. You understand? So for me, places like that, and then you have Pan-African Writers Association as an agency. Why do you want to have it as an agency? You understand? Hot cats, I mean, bring it back to tourism. Let them find themselves into the tourism or get themselves into the federation, i.e. GATOF, so that they will know that the structures are done well. So for me, the restructuring, I mean, should be done extremely well. One of the people who really wanted to do that, and of course, party election took them off. Japa Mesa, wanting to really combine things like the NFA and then the CAA, because indeed, if you put NFA as an office under the Creative Art Agency, it makes sense to all of us. But before that, we needed to give priority to movies. That's the more reason why the then gurus within the film sector decided to push for that agenda. But is it still relevant as we speak? That is what we need to be doing now. So for me, the restructuring is one of the key things that I feel that, it should be looked at. The other thing that, again, I felt it wasn't really addressed well and truly, Kwame has really executed that particular. I think I felt so, a little bit down with that kind of answers that were coming, simply because we should have understood that that place was critical. Even if she had searched on the net, she would have seen that media has given much attention to the Creative Art Agency. We should have understood, he should have even told them that it is under their regime that since 2020, the CA has never been effective. Then you close the gap. It has never been effective. Therefore, we are now coming to activate it perfectly.
And that's a major assurance.
That's a major assurance we are giving you that we're going to do it. So when Honorable Afenyo-Markin was still talking about the cultural fund, the creative art fund, she should have gone back to her to tell him that there's nothing called the creative art fund because, one, we don't even have an ally to even operate the CA. We've not even appointed board before. We have not taken a chief executive before. So that place, and you're talking about the fund, cannot even work in the first place until...
I'm not cutting you, but in the NDC manifesto, so they were reading the manifesto, it is in there that they will revive the fund. Remember during the debates,
I do.
There is no fund. So why do you revive a fund that is not there?
So what she should have also...
based on that.
Okay, so then what she should have also said was that in their time, 2013 to 2016, they gave, or President John Mahama gave them a 1 million fund, okay, through Ghana Cultural Forum for the creatives. That was the fund that they're talking about. President Mahama has also made it in such a way that he himself said he personally wants to have a fund for the old age, okay, a welfare fund for the old age. But when Honorable Afenyo-Markin dovetailed into the CAA, then you could have smartly dodged that aspect and deal with Afenyo on that CAA fund issues, which has never existed.
Which is in the Act.
In the Act, which has never existed at all. Do you understand? So for me, I think that, yes, she attacked it in a way she really felt these are the answers she needs to give. Notwithstanding, I think that we should look at two different things here. There's a difference between answering certain questions, or probably a typical example is people who write print media. They are too good when they write, with the words and everything, but they can't even explain some of the things that they even say. It is not that they are not good. They are good. But it's just that they couldn't explain what they wanted to really explain.
We
understand?
We
shouldn't really charge her or probably position her in the same way that, for instance, she couldn't even express herself very well with the agency. But the point is that when she gets in, and like I keep saying, if she gets the pillars right, the agency will fly like the way it has to
fly.
All right,
unfortunately, my time is up. I keep hearing that we should end
No time. There was a cultural policy question.
We have to do with that next week. We would have to do with that. I think we will scrutinize most of the things that she said, and then do it before you guys crucify my woman for me. Anyway,
no, we're not crucifying her. We believe in her, and we trust she will do a good job.
Dr. Samuel Ofori Dankwa, you are a lecturer at the University of Education in Winneba. You're vying for the University of Education in Winneba alumni president. This one is going out to you. Big shout out from this mic of NFA. And it's going out to you. So, Dr. Samuel Ofori Dankwa, wish you well in vying for that presidency. He's an alumni president that is vying for. And big shout out going out to my brother Sauce. You are in Tema. The other one is N-word, but I don't want to use that. So, and Sauce, you are in Tema. Very big shout out going out to you. And thanks to you for making time for me this morning. And Ken as well. I really appreciate your time. Kojupreko Dankwa is the man you want to look for if you want to press next. If you want to press next, Kojupreko Dankwa is the last killer. You press their neck. He's the president of FOCAP. Kwame Dazi hosts the show is A to Z, and he will be on radio tomorrow on Joy 99.7 FM at 2 p.m. Make sure you tune in.